Hello, good morning, and welcome to yet another exciting edition of The Other Perspective, brought to you by Alliance for Finance Monitoring. The Other Perspective is a space where we interrogate the thing behind the thing that is the thing. My name is Elizabeth Karunji, and I am your host for today. Before I get into today's discussion, let me request you to subscribe to ACFILM's YouTube channel, press the like button down below, and also kindly share the links with your friends and networks to tune in and be part of this discussion. Today we interrogate whether Lubowa is a financial crime scene. And before we start, let me give you a brief background to this. The controversy surrounding the Lubowa Hospital or Pineti project continues to unravel in the media. As a matter of fact, Italian firm Finassi, owned by Enrico Pineti, was not subjected to a competitive bid process on top of being issued a promissory note of 397 million US dollars by the government of Uganda in 2019. This is by far the most expensive hospital built in Uganda in comparison to Kirudu Hospital, which cost the Ugandan government 25 million US dollars. And this makes the Lubowa Hospital project approximately 16 more times expensive than the Kirudu Hospital. And there are two contentious issues that stand out in this Lubowa project. The first being the issuance of the project to the Finassi company when no satisfactory tangible work had been done yet. And the second being no procurement or open contracting or competitive bidding process done for the construction of the hospital, denying other companies the opportunity to submit their bid. On top of all this, despite no major activity on site to show for the 348 billion Ugandan shillings that was disbursed for the project in the current financial year, the Ministry of Finance officials want an additional 319 billion Uganda shillings approved by Parliament for the same project in the next financial year. The work the media has done on this scandal in terms of bringing this to light is very commendable and perhaps also laudable. We should also commend the Financial Committee on Finance, which acted in a very bipartisan manner. And with me today to discuss this topic is Priska Wanyenya. She is an activist and journalist covering the Parliament of Uganda, and she's also a regular panelist on the show. Priska, you're most welcome to the show. Priska, I can't hear you. You seem to be muted, but it's okay. Just kindly unmute. And then with me, I also have Eseru Abel, who is a political scientist and also a familiar face to The Other Perspective. Abel, you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and I want to thank all those people who are following us from wherever they are. I know they will be able to listen to us and follow the show.
Yeah. All right. So Abel, I'll be starting with you, and I want you to help the viewers understand what is a financial crime, and are we right to signpost Lubowa as a scene of financial crime?
Very interesting topic indeed. For starters, a financial crime is any activity that involves fraudulent or dishonest behavior for the purpose of personal financial gain or anything that includes illegal conversion of property ownership. But also I can term it in terms of victimless crime, where you engage and no one feels the pain. But also they are the most heinous because they do cripple most economies and also they ruin democracy. So if you want to know the types of offenses of financial crime, some of them include fraud, cyber crime, money laundering, terrorist financing, bribery and corruption, among others. And there are various gangs or groups of persons who always are engaged in this financial crime. Some of them include organized criminals like terrorist groups who perpetrate large-scale fraud to benefit themselves or fund their operations. But we also have corrupt heads of states who sometimes use their positions or influence to loot coffers or influence the decisions on which persons should get government contracts or what. But you also have business leaders or executives who oftentimes manipulate or misrepresent financial data in order to misrepresent the true financial positions of the company. Coming to your question on whether we can signpost Lubowa as a scene of financial crime. Of course, we know that when government contracts someone to do an activity or to do a project, and that person does not actualize that project within the agreed time frame, first of all, that makes it that makes that project fraudulent in nature, because you've acquired money from the government, or government promises to pay you money, and you get that money, but you don't fulfill in terms of delivering the project. So to me, Lubowa is a scene of financial crime, because first of all, there was a breach of contract in terms of the promissory notes that were delivered. Lubowa, the contractors of Lubowa were supposed to, that's financing firm, an Italian firm, which was supposed to be in charge of the Lubowa construction, was supposed to construct the hospital within 2 years, and after the 2 years, they deliver that hospital. Then that's when they would effect the promissory notes, which were equivalent to US dollar 397 millions. But we saw they already went ahead and effected the promissory notes. They got about 98 million US dollars, which they have already spent, but there was no work that has been done already. So there was a breach of contract in terms of the promissory notes that were given to them. But also we are looking at the beneficiaries of this project in terms of the government. Some people who are in the government have gone silent, because we know of the fact that Lubowa Hospital, the awarding of the contract to finance came as an order from the executive, and Parliament was ordered to just approve it. There was no, as you hinted earlier on, there was no open contracting, or there was no procurement process done to choose who should take over the construction of Lubowa Hospital. So all those anomalies that we see make Lubowa Hospital a financial crime scene. But also we see that the milestones that were set, the hospitals were supposed to be delivered within 2 years. But right now we have entered the 3rd year. There is no structure to be seen. We are only looking at the foundation. So it's real fraud, it's corruption. So all those are indicators of financial crime. So it makes it a financial crime scene.
Thank you, Abel, for that. Lubowa is indeed a financial crime scene based on what you told us. And Priska, Abel talks about the procurement process that was ignored. We saw how this project has been characterized by endless breaches, many of which are bordering financial crimes. What is your take on the happenings and revelations that are shocking Ugandans on a daily?
Thanks so much, Lisa. Are you getting me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
So it has become a trend for the so-called investors to now come walk into any government office, hand over your proposal, and say there is a project I want to undertake. And those are kind of the proposals that even UIA handles. And we saw it happen with. Initially, we thought that this was a characteristic of mostly the Chinese, how they handle their business, because we saw it with Entebbe Express, where you walk into office with your proposal. So when it comes to the issue of procurement, it's the investor who walked into the office and said, I'm going to undertake this kind of job. So one of the excuses that government will probably use is say the only offer we had was from financing and not anybody else. So the procurement debate doesn't come in so much, because already the government will use that defense that this is the only proposal we had. And Parliament visited the site on Friday, and from what I know is that the two contractors that Finasi had partnered with to undertake the jobs, they left the site. That was Rocco and Power China. And one of the things the Minister of Health says, because it was the one in charge of supervising, is that the two contractors didn't have enough money to undertake the works, because with the contracts you use your own money, then you're paid later on. So, and that revelation alone brings to question the capability of Finasi to undertake the works, because we imagine that by the time you bring on board someone, you know, you have looked into their background, their financial strength to undertake the works. And during the visit, when the Minister of Health was asked the due diligence they conducted on the contractors, they Otim, the Assistant Commissioner of Health Infrastructure, said that they did a Google search on Power China, the second contractor, and they found that is one of the Power China is one of the top 200 contractors around the world and have undertaken such works. So you are simply doing a Google search and go to the website, and you know these websites, they're uploaded by people. Uganda, the Minister of Health does not have control over what information is on Google for it to rely on it. Although we know that that is the basic, but you cannot commute a almost 1.8 trillion job to simply a Google search, and you sit and you say you're comfortable with it, and you are at the same time claiming that Power China is one of the 200 top companies in the world. So if it is one of the 200 top companies in the world, how are they not in position to raise money to start the construction of Lubowa if they are top as you claim? Because you cannot compare the economy of China's economy, which is the second largest in the world, to Uganda's. You see that? Not I tend to think even the economy of one village in China is equivalent to Uganda's. So if you cannot claim to be a top company when you cannot run a single project in an economy like Uganda, so that gives you a glimpse on, and some of the during the committee hearing, we realized that the government has reimbursed money over 5 times, and the money that is over 348, and the money they were requesting for the next financial year was 319. It is the one that set off this investigation, because in the first place, even Parliament was shocked that already some money has been given out to Lubowa. They didn't know about it, so they simply got to know about the event when they were asking for another batch. So the Parliament has not even gone to investigate how the first payment was. And back on the site, we also realized that there have been some advance payment made, about 49 US dollars that has been given to the investor, and of that they have been in position to recoup 11 million. So there is that money that is also, and they claim that they are doing studies on the software. That is the money they are under, because the hospital is not just the hospital, the building. There are also softwares and everything that, and looking at hiring labor and everything. So those are part of the revelations that happened at the site. And the other one was, the question was raised on why they are beginning to reimburse them to redeem the promissory notes. Yet according to the contract that Parliament approved, the promissory notes were supposed to be redeemed after the construction, 2 years after the construction of the works. So after you handing over the hospital, that is when you're going to. So it also brought the MPs to question what has happened to your finances, because in the earlier proposal by Pinetti that she brought to Parliament, said her finances are going to be Exim Bank Africa and Barclays Bank. So on top of the two contractors abandoning her, even the two financiers have abandoned her. So it when you speak about Lubowa being a crime scene, you tend to realize that those are part of the ingredients. Even if the crime has not come out full blown, but those are part of the ingredients, because there is a lot of secrecy shrouding this whole Lubowa project, that the public is yearning to see information and nothing is coming out. So, and when you ask me about some of the shocking things, is that the when the minister had said there are no contractors on site, but we found some casual laborers on site, and it so happens that when when the parliament vans were leaving, the casual laborers also left with us. Like, they left after us. So these are the people who were brought in the morning to try and do some things. And even the Ministry of Health was asked, you're saying there is no contract on site, but who are those people on site? They could not even explain. So they brought in some casual laborers, the people who are paid based on those of laws and everything, to act like they were. And immediately Parliament left the committee, they also left the site.
Wow, Priska, you just said something about the last visit of MPs to the site. But we know that in 2019, when MPs tried to visit the site, they were denied access to the site, claiming that it was for safety purposes. Wasn't that writing on the wall already? What took them so long to act? Because that could have been a clue to what we are seeing today. It took them 3 years to see that nothing was being done there.
You see, one of the things that, as I told you, one of the things that ignited the debate on Lubowa was, first of all, the death of the former speaker, because people were asking, oh, they remembered that, okay, we were promised a hospital in the first place. And the other thing was the money that Parliament was shocked that was already given, because even Parliament was not aware that this money had been given. And it becomes hypocritical for Parliament to even act shocked, because when this proposal was brought to Parliament of Lubowa, there were questions raised on, you remember that land even has some contestations between some locals and everything. All these things were brought on the table, and the opposition even warned government over this project, and even wondered why isn't this money given to other hospitals like Mulago, or the regional hospitals, to upgrade them to a better state than building a specialized hospital. But government stuck on its argument, saying that we are trying to reduce on the health tourism that the money that Uganda is losing. And
Just a second. We also had reports that the speaker then, Kadaga, received a letter from the president in Parliament that day that she showed to MPs on the day they were supposed to approve those monies. Are you aware about that?
no, I'm not aware of that letter yet. But the hypocrisy that the MPs, especially on the ruling side, show is what I think is what angering the public, because they were warned about this deal, but they insisted because they had the numbers. And we've seen these mistakes being committed over and over again. You see that? Yeah.
Thank you, Priska, for that. Abel, do you think Uganda's legal and institutional framework for financial intelligence equal to the task that we are dealing with? with cases of such nature. Also, what do you think explains the deafening silence of the Financial Intelligence Authority?
I think before I respond to that question, I also wanted to give my view on the issue of the procurement, which we have seen endless breaches. First of all, we remember that when Finance Farm got this deal, they initially only contracted Rocco Construction Company, and Finance had 95% of the shares. Rocco had 5% of the shares. But in the middle of doing things, they decided again to bring the Power China, and they're now trying to kick out Rocco out of the deal. So Rocco decided to run to court. And around July of 2019, I think 2019, 2020, there was an injunction from the court which was to prevent Rocco from being evicted, because I think Finance found it very difficult to work with Rocco, so they wanted to evict them, and so that they can continue working with Power China, because they had brought them on board. So these things were in court, so there was an injunction. That's why we still saw Rocco before they also left the site. So we are seeing there are very many breaches from the signing of the contract, the procuring of the contractors, single sourcing, which we have seen, which was only first of all given to Rocco, and then again they bring another person and they want to evict the one they had already awarded. So these are all signs which show you that this deal has been so fishy, and it was not done in a proper manner, and it was going to cost us a lot of money. We have seen as our sisters shared with us here, the financiers who were supposed to give them money have also decided not to give her money. She had agreed in the agreement that the award she was given, she was going to finance the entire project. Then after handing over, then that's when she would effect the promissory notes. But we have seen money has already been given to her without even the knowledge of Parliament. So those are all issues that need to be seen as indicators of financial crimes. So to me, the procurement process was faulty, and it makes the entire project a fraud. So when something is a fraud, that means anything you do is in line of financial. Back to your question on whether we have whether Uganda's legal institutions and institutional frameworks equal to the task of dealing with this sketch of the case of such magnitude. To me, of course, we have institutions in place. The Financial Intelligence Authority, we have the Inspectorate of Government that looks at issues of corruption. But the question is whether they are strong enough to deal with such cases. First of all, the first thing we need to understand that most countries that have dictators in place or leaders who have overstayed in power and they want to continue entrenching themselves in power, they thrive on corruption. And one way of thriving in corruption is making sure that you have investors that come in place and tell you they are going to help government in developing the country using some of the projects, but they use those very projects to swindle money and do shoddy work, and the money ends up helping some of those leaders to entrench themselves in power. So for you to have yourself entrenched in power, first of all, you have to weaken all the state institutions. So whether you have legal and institutional frameworks in place, but they are not strong enough, so they cannot come up to start chasing after, and they know that they were sent by the executive, and they initially told them, you're going to be awarded this contract, so you go and be in charge of the contract. So Parliament even approved. So you have only one investor coming, given the contract, does fraudulent work, and you don't see anything on ground, still asks for more money. You ask yourself, so who is this investor working for? So if the institutions we have here, the legal and legal institutions that do work around anti-corruption, like the Financial Intelligence Authority, which is supposed to enhance and identify proceeds of crime of this nature, like for me, I regard this as a financial crime, because You cannot acquire money from the government. You don't do any work. The parliamentary guys want to go and do oversight in the site. You block them from doing their work. After now, they start making a lot of noise and demanding that we have to go and see these things. That's when now you allow them, once they reach the site, there's no work done. The contractors that you were working with have left the site. So by the time Parliament is even doing that, we should have seen that this should have started from the institutions that we have, like FIA, IGG should have come out and raised the red flag on this project already. But when they wait for individuals and citizens to start making a lot of noise, then they also now maybe go and start, I don't know whether they are going to really investigate, but I don't think they are going to do anything else, because to my own understanding, all regimes that want to sustain themselves in power thrive through corruption. And one way of thriving through corruption is coming with pseudo investors who come and deceive you that they are going to invest in projects and the government will finance them after. Then after a certain period of time, you don't see anything tangible from the project. So I don't have any hope in our institutions because they don't have the powers to do that.
Thank you, Abel. So in an event that this whole issue is too big for our legal framework to handle, like you have alluded, is there any way that it can be referred to the authors of the Pandora Papers or any international organization to help? What do Ugandans do at this point? Because you've showed us that the anti-corruption organizations that we have here, the financial crime organizations, can't really do anything about it. What do we do as Ugandans now?
As Ugandans, what we can only now do is we have to take the mantle in our hands. We need to now do investigation ourselves and also partner with other investigative journalists outside the country. Let her investigate this thing to its dot, because these are some of the ways money is being laundered. Because you find that you acquire money from the government. Maybe you are an investor working for someone, a politically exposed person in government, as a politician or a bureaucrat, and you deal with them to acquire money from the government. After acquiring that money, you don't use it for the project, but you end up using it for other things, like maybe you end up putting up your own apartments, buying lavish cars and other things. So you've laundered it after acquiring it from government. So we need to document some of these things, expose them, work with other international partners so that we expose these people so that they know that whatever they are doing, they are ruining the country's economy. They are not helping the country grow. They are stealing from the country. The taxpayers are the ones that are suffering. So it's high time we start exposing them. I think we need to come up with our own Kampala papers, like Pandora Papers. We have had the Panama Papers also. So it's high time we come up with our own Kampala Papers, exposing some of these fraudulent acts which we are seeing. These are all financial crimes which we need to expose. We don't need to leave them just like that.
All right, thank you, Abel, for that. We are going to go in for a short break and we'll be back briefly.
So, Madam MP, I'm so honored to have you on this interview. So, for starters, how does it feel like being an MP? I want you to take me through your scope of work in this office. Actually, I think this is something better. Why don't I hand over my office to you for something like 2 or 3 days? That will be perfect. It will be perfect. So when will you be free? We can do it now. Now? I'm going to hand over my office to you for 24 hours. Okay. Right. This is a list of the calls I'm expecting today. These are the phones. You make sure you note down everything. Okay. Have a good day. Have a good day too.
Yes, please, Officer MP. Okay. Please, I'll call you back. Hello, Officer MP. How may I help you? Oh my god. How much? 14. Oh my god. Okay, fine. All right. My god! This is what she goes through?
Oh, whatever. Thank God you're back. I can't do this anymore. But we agreed for 24 hours.
What does that mean?
I don't know how you do it. Let me just give it back to you.
Have you got enough for your story?
Enough. I got more than what I bargained for. Thank you so much.
Voters redefined the work of an MP. I buy food, I pay for burials, I pay school fees for so many, I pay hospital bills, I buy seeds and donate.
What? Why? Tell people the bitter truth.
They don't want to know.
Do your job.
Which is?
Make laws, protect the democratic government, oversee the implementation of the government programs.
They don't want to.
When will you ever put service before politics?
Tell voters I'm a politician, not a Rotarian. They should stop that begging culture of theirs.
Stop imposing such overwhelming demands on your MP. The statutory role of an MP is to perform legislation, oversight, budget approval, and representation.
Welcome back from that short break, and this is still the other perspective. Today we are looking at whether Lubowa is a sin of financial crime. And Priska, before we broke off, you had mentioned that last week, I think last Friday, MPs visited that site once again, and you stated that you saw casual laborers on site. And as soon as the parliamentary buses left, you also saw the casual laborers leave. What do you think is behind this show? And is this an act for them? Do they think they are fooling Ugandans?
Okay, from what I know is that, of course, there have been all these speculations on Pinetti being linked to the occupant of plot number 1 and everything. But during yesterday's caucus sitting in NRM, when they were discussing the same investor, but this time around the coffee bill, the president told the MPs that I am the one who brought this investor up, the coffee. So they are known. So the mere fact that he brought the investor in the coffee sector, there is also a high possibility, something that I cannot exclusively confirm, but during the caucus he said, I'm the one who brought this investor in the coffee sector. So that really shows that they are known. Of course, there have been speculations around the public about this, but although it was within the caucus itself, you usually have the sources to tell you that. So it now confirms the speculations around the country. You know, nowadays there's a trend in Uganda that there is nothing like rumors. In the end, you just give it time. So that is it. But as I said, yes, the casual laborers were seen leaving as the MPs were leaving. Even the MPs saw them leaving. So what you should know is there is no contractor on site, and on site at the investor is still looking for a contractor to take over the works. But the Minister of Health says they too left because of lack of finances, and the other thing was language barrier. That Power China had issues with the language barrier with Uganda, and for one, you know that this is the same minister that told us that this is the top company in the world, and you know how many people speak English around the world. So you wonder a top company not having people who can speak English that can be deployed. And you know, it's not that the first time that China is coming to Uganda. They've been in Uganda for quite some time. So the argument of saying power language and language barrier does not hold ground, because even that, yeah, yes, it could be, but there are now translators and interpreters all over the place. For one, I know that at Makerere they teach all these languages at the School of Languages, Chinese and Japanese. So also that ground that does not hold. So there's been a total gap of information around Lubowa, and that is what has led to all this speculation. As you say, the moment MPs were locked out of the premises in 2019, it's what confirmed, because the MP's visit followed the fighting between Rocco and Finasi. You see that? So they like it was their first step to try come and see what is taking place and save the situation. But even that failed. So, but I was surprised that Lubowa was not one of the projects that was discussed by in the caucus. But from what I know is in the Parliament approved the proposal not to release this money to the treasury operations, because treasury operations is the one that is going to pay the money. So so it leaves to see whether the executive is going to implement this directive, because they say they would rather have this money go to other to fund other items in the budget than giving it to Lubowa. It's until the investor sorts out the mess in Lubowa. And as I left Parliament to come here today, I left the Committee of Finance having an in-house meeting with its members, and the Ministry of Health officials led by the Minister Achen were outside waiting to start the investigation. So officially the probe is starting today into Lubowa, and there will be all these witnesses coming up. And of course the Attorney General has maintained his stand that he doesn't see anything bad with the contract of Lubowa, as he usually says. So, but all that the listeners and the viewers should know is the probe is starting officially today. That is the Ministry of. I've not yet gotten the latest development of how far it has gone, but I don't think the information that the Ministry of Health is going to provide is going to be any different, because what was asked of them is the reports that they were making making to the Ministry of Finance to approve the payment, because the in-house engineer who is the engineer at the Ministry of Health is the one who was coming to supervise the works, and if he finds the works quantifiable to a certain amount, he recommends to the Ministry of Finance to pay. So that is the committee is going to look into all the reports he has made, because he argues that the works are about 24%. But all we know, when you look at the site, it's the foundation. So if you're not an engineer, you cannot. It's kind of hard for you to quantify. But you would see that the foundation vis-a-vis the money that has already gone, because that is the works are about 24%. The money the project is supposed to be around 1.8 trillion. So they've already paid 300 billion. So there is a whole chunk of money that is remaining. So that is now they are going to see that, to investigate and see were the recommendations by the Ministry of Health to Finance in tandem with the works. Is there value for money? Because they are also going to call in the Auditor General to conduct a value for money audit. But usually a value for money audit can be conducted alongside an engineering audit. So I'm yet to see what the recommendations are going to be about the current investigations.
Thank you, Priska, for that. And Abel, Krista earlier mentioned that she had the president himself openly say that he is the one that brought this investor. And when I was looking up for Erica Pinetti online, her name popped up in reports from ICJ, and her name continuously appears in the Panama Papers, the Pandora Papers. What do you think about this for the president to come out openly and say he is the one that brought her, despite all these things behind her name? What does that say about the president?
You see, earlier on when I was telling you about the persons who are involved in matters of financial crimes, you also have heads of state that use their positions of powers to loot. So they sometimes use as investors and other persons of their choices. So if the president said is the one who brought Pinetti, and we are seeing the works of Pinetti are not satisfactory to what Ugandans expect of her as an investor, that shows you that I think our president is getting it wrong whenever he's bringing these investors. I don't know whether the investors are meant to work for Ugandans or to work for his own benefit. As I told you earlier, we have seen very many regimes which have stayed in power for so long. They always want to keep power and entrench themselves in power, so they use corruption as one of the tools to get money, to buy off supporters, to make sure that they deal with other persons who are opposing them. So they can come up with their own investors, look for ways of how to make money from the government through the budgets, allocate money in the budget, and call their own investors, give the promissory notes as you saw they gave the Pinetti. But you look at the work, they are claiming they have done 24% of the work. I don't think they have done 24% of the work, because currently we have spent about 98 million US dollars on that, on the 24% they are claiming they have done. But we are only seeing in the news and the pictures they're showing us, they have only done the foundation of the hospital, nothing else. So you cannot be the head of state and defend such a person, because the person is already costing the taxpayer a lot of money. What the president would have done as the head of state was to now say, yes, I brought Pinetti. She has cost us a lot of money. I think it's high time she refunds me. She would be talking of refunding the money, not defending the person he has brought, because there's a lot of money we are investing. If we had said, let's construct regional hospitals or upgrade our regional hospitals, how much money would have we used? Because if you are using all that money on an investor and the investor is not giving you the end product, then we question even the kind of investors the president is inviting. Now they have given her the coffee deal. That coffee deal is also should also be questioned, because the track record shows that the person was given a deal of Lubowa. She has failed to deliver it in 2 years. Why again give her another deal of coffee? Is there something behind we are not seeing? Or she's just being a conduit being used to get money out of government, and then that money they end up using it somewhere else? Why have the contractors run away from the site? Have they learned something? So those are some of the questions we need to ask ourselves. So when someone comes to defend an investor, it raises a lot of eyebrows, because you need to now question, okay, it seems there are more investors of this kind in Uganda, and that's why we are seeing the IGG one time came and said Uganda loses up almost to the tune of 10 trillion Uganda shillings annually on corruption. So are these some of the investors that are making us lose all that money? So if the president is the one who brings some of them, like he has claimed, the one who brought Pinetti, and it should be the #1 citizen who is on top of this game on fighting corruption, and we're seeing some of these guys are costing us using their fraudulent acts, then I don't think the regime in power is ready to fight corruption and help Ugandans move forward.
Thank you, Abel. And Priska, what do you think? If the 10th Parliament was cajoled into approving this shady deal, what should we expect of the 11th one at a time when the cry for deals is growing? You just spoke about probe that is starting today, what should we expect from the 11th Parliament on such deals?
Thanks, Lisa. And I'm picking up from the point that Abel made on the political commitment to fight corruption, and if he bothered to listen into the president's speech over the weekend when he was celebrating the son's birthday, we are calling it the endorsement party, because he said that unlike him, who has been a little bit patient or tolerant towards corrupt people, that his son is not going to be corrupt. So in other words, he admitted that he had failed to fight corruption. And so we when back to the question you have asked on what I should expect from the 11th Parliament. We are seeing the same kind of handling of business like it was, not any different, because something comes up, there's an NRM caucus that happens, and you come to agree and everything changes. I do not think there is NSN Ugandan who is out there who is expecting miracles from the 11th Parliament, that they are going to do anything any different, because there is always been that blame game in the different parliaments. And when this issue of Lubowa first came up, one of the new MPs said that for him he would have fought tooth and nail not to approve this deal. He had decided it was better for government to issue just a guarantee, not to issue the promissory notes. So he speaks of the excitement about the new MPs when they have just come and they think they are going to do miracles, anything that is any different. But this goes down to a system that has already been built. You cannot. This is a system that has been built for over 36 years. You see that in power, and for you're coming and you think it's going to be dismantled within just 5 years. It takes a process. So for the public to think there is going to be anything any different that is going to happen in the 11th Parliament, I cannot tell them that they should not hope for anything good, but they will need a lot of patience for that to occur, because we are dealing with a system that is deeply engraved into the corruption. It's not something you just wake up one day and dismantle and you say this, and we are going to deal with the corruption or the way we have been handling business. As long as we are still discussing everything in the caucus. As I told you, I was surprised the issue of the war didn't come up, probably because the coffee issue affects more, because they discussed coffee and commodity prices and something else. So when the issue of war spills out, there will be a caucus that is going to be called, and you know what happens after the caucus is called? Everyone who has been seeing how they are going to fight this ends up voting us, because we are looking at, you're not going to sacrifice your political career for Ugandans anyway. So for them, they should remain hopeful that things will change, but it's not going to change over time within the 5 years. And you cannot guarantee that, yes, the 11th Parliament gave us the airlines deal. 11th Parliament gave us the Lubowa deal and many others. But each parliament has its own things. And the 11th Parliament also gave us the age limit, and we are the 10th, I mean. So we are looking at the 11th Parliament coming up with the rumors of dealing with the Maryland and land amendments. We are looking at them going to the parliamentary system. So each parliament has its own scene. The other one should not look at the others as was worse. It's better for them to look into lessons and tighten their grip on the due diligence that is being carried out.
Thank you, Priska. So, Abel, we keep hearing the minister Kasaija continuously defending what's going on, and he claims that the staff, the people who are supposed to work at the project, left during COVID. Some of them never returned, and they have the nerve. The ministry keeps coming back to get more from Ugandans. They're now pressuring MPs to approve this money over and over. They'll probably keep coming, asking for more money, for more money. What do you have to say about this?
Lisa, when the minister says the contractors left during COVID, where did they run to? Because it was during the COVID time when we saw very many apartments, arcades rising up within Kampala here. So I don't know where the contractors ran, but I think that is just a very flimsy excuse you can give to Ugandans, because all I know, the president, even during the COVID time, did not stop construction companies from not working. They were left to work. So I don't understand when he comes and tells us they left the site. That's a very flimsy excuse. But all I know that, of course, he has to defend Pinetti, as you have heard that it's the president who alluded yesterday, who said that he's the one who invited Pinetti to invest in Uganda. So he has to make sure that if the appointing authority is the one who has brought the investor, and the appointing authority is the one who appointed him to be the finance minister, he has to defend Financi and Pinetti for the works they have been doing. So he's just working under orders. According to me, he's under orders. He's not working as an independent-minded person. So you find it makes it very difficult for you to trust a finance minister who comes out and continues defending someone and also wants more money to be approved by Parliament and given to that very person who has already duped us. This is thuggery in broad daylight, because you have given someone about $98 million. The person has not done any tangible work, and the person had promised you that she was going to get money from the banks and put up the hospital. After putting up the hospital, then now the government can pay. But now we are seeing again, government is paying the same individual without even delivering the hospital. Why are you coming to ask for more money? Isn't that fraud? Aren't you duping Ugandans? Aren't you stealing from Ugandans? Because if you've signed the deal and you've agreed that you're going to give this investor a project, and the investor has to finalize with that project before you pay that investor. But now you're paying the investor before even the project goes 50% the work is not, there's nothing like 50% work done, and you're still defending such a person. I think the best thing this minister can do is to just excuse himself from the seat and let another person occupy that seat, because we cannot keep ministers who are going to defend people who are duping Ugandans and stealing from us.
Thank you, Abel. It's been a really interesting discussion, and we have just about 5 minutes to end the show. And I would want to hear from both of you what Ugandans can do, because we're seeing Parliament try to do something. The media has also played a very commendable role in this entire scandal. What can Ugandans do for this kind of case? And we know that there'll still be more to come in the future. What can we do, Priska?
Thanks so much, Lisa. I think Ugandans should not relent on putting pressure on government on this issue. Let them continue asking the questions and demanding for information from their leaders. Each time their leaders are coming for barriers or especially when you talk of cases like barriers, they should keep on asking them these questions and reminding them whether in public or even on social media, because the more you push for this information, the more information that is going to come out. You ask these questions, and from the people that are watching and listening in, I can assure you that, you know, most times the questions that you ask in public, when something is happening and you make a post either on Facebook or Twitter asking the questions, or even on WhatsApp, trust me, some of the questions that I see on social media, they're the ones that the MPs come and ask in the committees when they're interfacing with the witnesses. So they should not think that their efforts are going to waste. There are some people who are seeing these things and they are picking them up. And from a journalism perspective, some of the questions that are asked, because I do not take myself as having all sorts of information, because I have no expert knowledge in medicine or anything like that. So, but when I see a doctor or an expert in the field raise some questions, and I happen to land on them on social media, they are the questions that I will ask the witnesses after they have left. Because sometimes what we do is, when an MP has missed out a question in the committee, we write sheets and say, "You please ask the witness this question." So we have to keep on pushing, doing our civic duty of putting pressure on the government, because the more pressure you exert on the government, the more information you're going to get. Because for all we know, there is a lot of secrets around the Lubowa deal, but if we keep on asking for more information, even the media will know that the public is yearning for Lubowa, and that is the same route that they are going to take, because we tend to serve our audiences. So I do not want Ugandans to lose any hope. They should keep on asking questions and putting their political leaders on pressure over these issues.
Thank you, Priska, for that. And Abel, kindly give us your final word.
The first thing I would encourage Ugandans is to demand for accountability from the government, because we pay taxes for government to give us back better services. But we are seeing now government is duping us and giving us services which are not really commensurate to what we are paying as taxpayers. But also, I think the Lubowa deal should be cancelled, and investors should refund the money which has been paid, and we look for another person to do that project, because right now where it has reached, the money should just be refunded. We cannot continue giving more money to an investor who has already failed to deliver the hospital in 2 years. She has not even reached 50% of the project in 3 years, and she wants more money. Another thing I need to call upon our members of parliament: they should not accept to be cajoled into bowing to the pressure from the executive that brings some of these investors. They should stand firm and call upon these people to account on how they have used the taxpayers' money, so that we can ensure that any penny being spent by government, at least we see some tangible result from it. But if we just leave everything to be done by executive, and they come with orders and tell parliament, just go and approve this, go and approve this, and parliament doesn't ask questions, why should we approve this? We have not seen this accountability. Then we shall not have a country that will develop.
Thank you so much, Abel. Thank you so much, Priska. It's been an interesting discussion, and just like you've heard, Ugandans, do not relent. Keep on raising your concerns and demand for accountability. Thank you all that tuned in. Thank you, our subscribers, and we hope to see you next week, same place, same time. Have a blessed week.